Hey everybody, this is Michael Bryson for This is Bodybuilding. I'm here this week with Tampa Pro, yeah?
Yes,
the
indeed.
Tampa Pro 212 champion, Kerrith Bajjo. Kerrith, how's it going?
It's going good, Michael. How are you?
Excellent. You had a great season this year, man.
It was a hell of a season. We set out to achieve the goal of getting to the Olympia. We got there. Of course, we had to win a pro show. We didn't want to get in on points, but we got in there. Everything that we said we wanted to do, we did it. We put our foot in the soup and really stirred it up. So yeah, great year.
Yeah. Was the Chicago Pro your first show of the year?
It was. I wanted it to be New York, but I was recovering a little bit, and I just wasn't mentally prepared to do New York. So we eyed Chicago, and Chicago in Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah. We gave them hell. It was a great lineup. Yeah.
That was a really good show.
Yeah, no, that was a real good show. I think that was like the precursor of things to come, because in my opinion, from that point on, 212 shows just got better and better.
I really think it was one of the strongest divisions of the year. Every show was excellent, really, in the 212. Yeah. It's a great, there's a lot of talk right now. We can get into this a little bit. I hear a lot of people talking about, like, should we do away with the 212 division? Because there's all this talk of guys could either do, after Sean Clarita won a open division show.
Yeah, the Legion.
Question: what's the point of it? Shouldn't you guys either be able to compete in the open, or if you wanted to go down in weight, to classic? And I got to say, like, last year or 2 years ago, I was kind of on that bandwagon. But because the season has been this season that we were finished was so strong, I just don't see a need for doing away with the division.
It's probably a numbers thing. I think that the 212 doesn't attract as many people as the open does. However, we do everything that the open guys do, and we still fall short when it comes to putting asses in the seats. It's just what it is. Sean, he kind of made that argument, pretty much, like, all right, so basically, why would we have it if Sean could win it? No slight to Sean. What he did was phenomenal. That was insane, like giant killer all day. And that just brings me back to the days of yesteryear, when you had guys, that were half the size of Lee Haney going up and, being in the argument. True.
Very true.
So
right. All right, I changed my mind. You're right. Let's do away with it.
Right now, I mean, like, you don't know where to go.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think there is a place for it, but I think we should be allowed to, pick and choose whether or not we want to do without scrutiny.
Right.
A lot of guys, they like to say, oh, the 212 guys need to be in 212, open guys. No, I think it should be at the discretion of the athlete. I think we should be able to pick freely without scrutinization, because if we want to push the envelope and enter the open at 190, so be it. Like, why should you get told you can't be here?
Quality is quality. It doesn't matter. The quantity doesn't matter as much as the quality. And I got to say that during the course of this year, what's that?
Except if you're big Ron. Yeah.
That's a whole different level of quantity. But I mean, throughout the year and at the Olympia, where I saw you compete for the first time, actually, live anyway, you guys were bringing conditioning solidly throughout that top 10, throughout even the top 15.
Yeah.
Where you did not necessarily see that in the open. So perhaps it would light a fire under the asses of the 230 pounders, 250 pounders to get shredded if you guys were in their shows. I don't know.
Right. So here's my argument, right? Check it out. If you have a 212 guy who is conditioned as shit, and pardon my language, and he doesn't
this
win.
Is an adult show.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And he doesn't win the 212 division, right? And he decides he wants to compete in the open as well. Now, if he places better in the open than he did in the 212, like what's that say for the open guys?
Yeah. Right.
You know, so that's why I think there has to be a place for the 212 or completely do away with it. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So,
but it's a conundrum, right?
What's that?
It's a conundrum, right? You don't know where to go now.
It is. It's a very interesting thing that happened with Sean doing that show and winning it. But again, like, so there was argument. No, I'm not talking about you yet. We got to get to you. But there was an argument about him winning that show as the smallest guy. When people were saying, but the IFBB Pro League was saying that the reason Hadi didn't win the Olympia was because he was too small, even though he was in the best shape. But he was only beaten by Big Ramy and Brandon Curry, who are Mr. Olympias, and those guys, Sean didn't beat those guys. So
no,
it's a different level. There's levels to everything.
But then you have, how would Sean do against Hadi?
Be interesting, but
yeah,
that'd be interesting. Hadi has almost beaten Flex Lewis in the past. He's bigger now. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
Well, Sean hasn't gone up against Flex, but you know, he is bigger now and he's better now. So, you know, like, I'd still like to see that argument.
Yeah, it would be really good. That'd be a good battle. What show? When did you turn pro?
2017 Team Universe. Yeah. So I'm relatively young, you know.
What's your age? How old are you?
Well, I'm 39. That's old, but I'm young in the bodybuilding game.
Gotcha.
It's you know, but you know, I'm still new in the game, and you know, I've only done a few pro shows. I think this year was the most shows that I've ever done in a single season, which isn't many. It's only 3. But I did like to live by the philosophy of you can only peak once. So I'd always try and hit my peak going into a show, you know, and then I'd shut it down. But this year we decided we're going to make the Olympia by any means. We did.
You did?
You know, yeah.
Were you with Dave? You're with Dave Palumbo, correct?
Yes.
Was he always your coach?
Yeah, since Team Universe, Dave has been in my corner. You know, we've had a lot of success. It's only progressively gotten better. You know, this year being the pinnacle of us working together. You know, so you know, it's a good run. Yeah. You know, we'll see where it goes.
Okay. The possible changes in the future?
Well, not. Dave's my guy. Dave's my guy.
Okay. Yeah, Chicago Pro, great show. I didn't see the Chicago Pro or the Tampa Pro live in person, but I watched the streaming. The Chicago Pro was one that could have gone any number of ways, honestly.
Oh yeah.
The top 4 of that show was fantastic.
That was me, John, Ahmed, and Keon. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was a toss-up because I think we all had our strengths, we all had our weaknesses, and you know, legit coin flip, pick one. You know, it just so happened that wasn't the one for me. But you know, all 4 of us were in the Olympia.
That's right.
So that says a lot.
Yeah, that was a quality show, quality physiques. How did you feel coming out of that show? When you went into that show, I know all you guys, you go in with the concept that you're going to win, that you want to win a show.
Always.
But placing 3rd in that level of show, afterwards, how do you feel?
Well, meanwhile, sidebar, I got my girlfriend right here throwing her hands up like one of those blow up things at the car wash, you know. But she lost her shit when I got 3rd. But, you know, I was content with it. I knew what the lineup was, and I was happy to be in the conversation. Because going into the show, I was getting a lot of hate on social media from people, you know, I've never heard of. You know, Keon's gonna roast you, this and that. And, you know, I'm like, dude, relax, it's bodybuilding. Like, calm down. We do this for fun, and behind the scenes, we're all pretty cool with each other, you know. And I just was happy to be in the conversation. So, you know, while I placed third, it was a hell of a learning experience, and I knew I was going to get my day. My day just happened to be a few weeks later in Tampa.
Right.
You know?
That show, I thought any one of the top four could have won. I thought that the judges had you in second, so I was actually surprised that you got third, because it seemed like the way it was. Watching it, I thought that the judges had you second place.
Yeah, in the playbook, I thought I was second too, you know, but you know, tomato, tomato.
Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about how like fans would go onto your own page or whatever and say, you know, Keon's going to kill you or whatever. It's weird. I've never been that sort of fan where like, and I'm talking about before I ever did anything like this is bodybuilding or anything. I'm talking about like in the 80s and 90s, a fan of bodybuilding. I could have my favorites, but I appreciated everyone, you know, like everyone that was in it, doing their thing, bringing their best. To me, why would I say, oh, someone's going to you're going to get killed by this guy? I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, I might not think you're going to win, but I wouldn't necessarily want you to be destroyed. You know, it's weird.
Exactly. Right. When you look in the magazine, you're like, oh, that's an awesome physique. That's an awesome physique. It was always up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah, I guess social media changed people how they are as fans. I don't know.
It's brutal how the dynamic changed over a very short period of time. You know, and now the trolls, they're relentless, because you chop one down, 3 grow back.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah. Going into the Tampa Pro, I honestly, so I just recently rewatched part of when I did the preview for the Tampa Pro. And I realized also I never did a review of that show. I don't know why. I think it just timing wise, it moved quickly to where the Texas Pro was around the corner, and probably by personal life, I didn't do a thing about that one. But going into the Tampa Pro, stupidly, I did not pick you to be anywhere in the top 4 or 5.
I like that. And you know what? When I got the chance to do an acceptance speech, I said the underdog got one. You know, and you know, that wasn't a shot at anybody who didn't pick me. I always consider myself the underdog because I'm not the biggest social media person. You know, I'm not out there, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies all the time.
Right.
So, you know, I'm just a regular dude that loves to bodybuild.
Right.
So, you know, while I don't have the exposure of the other guys, I can still, you know, get in the gym or get on stage with the best of them. You know, but I still live a pretty average life. You know, I'm not out here selling products for anybody. I just do this for me.
Right.
And I think that's what really keeps me, you know, in tune with bodybuilding and just always striving for more, striving for better. You know, some guys, they get the, you know, I'm not taking any shots, but you see that they get the big deal and somehow their progress plateaus. I think that's where you lose the hunger. It's just like anybody who gets a record deal, you know, you're only hungry to a certain point.
Right.
You know.
Right. But you're fed. You're
I'm not saying don't sponsor me. I'm not saying don't sponsor me. You know, I think I can be the exception to the rule. Yeah. But you do see that more often than not.
You are correct. Yes, I agree with you. And as a fan of bodybuilding, like I love stuff like that. I love that you won that show because like I didn't have you picked and I didn't see you coming. I figured Austin Carr was going to win that show, and he actually, I don't think he placed in that show.
He might have been top 10, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember. There was one show where he just did not show up as himself. You know, but anyway, at any rate,
my manager over here is telling me he got third call out.
Yeah, I believe he got 16. He was tied for 16th.
Really?
Maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. I think I can find this real fast because I've recently pulled up.
Regardless of what, when I saw Austin at the weigh-ins, dude, I was so blown away because I was like, how the hell is this guy going to be in 212? Because he was monstrous.
He is monstrous.
His legs.
He was 16. He was tied for 16.
16.
Yeah.
His legs were friggin' just out of this world.
He's
So I was
got.
like, seeing him weigh in, he dropped down in the trunks. I was just like, holy shit, he looked ready. So I don't know what happened, but
Yeah, I think he said that he did something weird the night before or something, something experimental, and it didn't pay off. But he was in the Texas Pro. He placed second.
He looked great. Yeah. So that's a hell of a jump, right?
Yeah, that show got won by Ahmed.
Yeah.
Who placed second?
Elsa. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't want to mess the name up.
Elsa Danny or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm horrible. But he won that show. He placed second to you in Tampa, and you placed third behind him in Chicago.
Yeah. So we did a little flip flop.
How did he place in the Olympia? You beat him in the Olympia.
I got him in the Olympia again, but I think he was third call outs, if not mistaken. Yeah,
he did a lot of shows.
And then he did Egypt. This guy, I got to find out what the hell he's doing.
Yeah,
how do you have that much energy? Serious.
Oh man.
Never mind just the bodybuilding, the travel alone, to go, from coast to coast, state to state.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Continent to continent. We're talking about a whole different level here.
Yeah.
I get tired walking down the block.
Yeah. Going into the Tampa Pro, did you do anything drastically different from the Chicago Pro? Do you feel like you brought a totally different look?
I did, and I do. So we kept the food very low, not bikini girl diet or anything like that, but just, low protein, low carbs, but we stayed steady. And we didn't really have any cheats going into it. So I didn't have like a cheat meal for like the last 4 weeks heading into Tampa Pro. And, we kept everything clean the night before, and the day of, I should say. Normally it's a burger. Unfortunately, but fortunately, DoorDash fucked up my order. And, I was forced to get food from downstairs at the hotel, which was a cleaner option. And the morning of, DoorDash fucked up my order, and I was forced to eat a clean breakfast. And I probably had 10 meals from the night before leading into the show. So we just had to keep feeding me, keep me full, because I was just losing protein, losing water, losing everything, and I had to just stay full. So that said, we had 10 meals. Normally we kind of starve into a show to fit into a show, and that wasn't the case this time. I felt great. I didn't sleep as I usually do. I stayed hydrated. We didn't cut water at all.
Good.
And that was very different. But I think that is the decision maker right there. That kept me happy throughout the night. I wasn't, dying of thirst.
Right.
But it was a different feel. And I think overall, the way I approached the cardio was a lot different. We did a lot less leading into the show. And then the last week or so, we might have turned it up. But, after that, it was just, hey, let's see what we got. And I knew what we had was special at the time. So, awesome. Yeah,
Going on to the stage, like as the show was beginning, did you feel like this is my show?
Yeah, I hate to brag on shit like that, Michael, but I felt it, man.
Yeah,
I felt it. Yeah.
Well, you were right, because it was your show. Yeah. That's awesome.
No, I was upstairs warming up, and my girlfriend texts me. I usually ignore her when I'm upstage, or behind stage. And she was like, "How do you feel?" And I hate being asked that question, because I'm like, usually the answer.
Yeah.
But I texted her back. I was like, I feel fucking great.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna win this show. And after that, it was like, prejudging got done. I had so much energy. Like, I felt terrific.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a different feel altogether. But I think I knew I had that one. It was different. There was something in the air.
Going into the Olympia, did you kind of stay on the same sort of game plan that you did to win the Tampa Pro?
It was difficult maintaining that momentum. I'm not gonna lie. Not that I got lazy or anything. I still did the work, but I had a few things, you know, family-wise that happened that were distractions. You know, I lost a friend, lost a family member, and you know, it was something that was kind of eating at me. You know, so I tried to do everything around bodybuilding properly. However, and I think I mentioned this to you, you know, I set everything up where, you know, when I get to Orlando, I don't have to worry about a thing. First thing that happened, I forget my cell phone in the shuttle van. So right there, yeah, it started off bad.
Yeah.
Luckily, the guy came back, brought my phone, get on the plane. Boom, get to Orlando. Supposed to get my food delivered to the hotel. The food was ordered probably a month in advance, paid extra for X amount of time shipping, and my food never shows up. So here I am calling up, what do you call it there, Instacart, and having them deliver, you know, processed food to me. So the entire week of the Olympia, I had nowhere to cook because I'm in a hotel with, you know, no oven, no stovetop. So I'm just sitting here microwaving processed chicken and Uncle Ben's rice. And that's pretty much how I ate for the entire week. So with all that said, I think I could have brought a better package than what I did had I gotten the right nutrition. You know, granted, Dave didn't know any of this either. He actually found out probably a week and a half after the Olympia. And, you know, we managed to put something together, you know, and I'm the type that it usually just rolls off my shoulder. So, you know, while others are panicking, like my girlfriend, I'm kind of like, let's just, you know, let's just take it for what it is. We're here now. Let's put our best foot forward. This is the hand we're dealt.
Yeah, but you definitely did. You looked, I thought, amazing on stage. You placed 8th, first Olympia. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's something, you know, single digits is an excellent thing in your first Olympia. And I could have had you as in the top 6 of that show, honestly.
Thank you.
You said, now I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you experienced something on stage, yeah? Some sort of
yeah. So it was real weird. It was almost like a sciatic attack, if you may, where all of a sudden, you know, if you go back and watch the playback, I'm actually limping when I initially walk out on stage, and I didn't realize it, but there was no pain at that point. Then when I came out for the introduction, it was kind of like, it didn't really hurt at the time, but I knew something was off. And as I walked off stage to go back around, I says to one of the expediters, I think I just tore my glute muscle, you know, and I just felt everything becoming more inflamed. And, you know, I wasn't even going to be able to make finals because it was that much pain.
wow.
Luckily, a young man had reached out to me a couple of weeks before when I was in Tampa. He was in the Florida area. Dr. Diego, thank you very much. He came to see me in between prejudging and finals. And he, you know, did some soft tissue work. I was able to move around a little bit, took a couple Tylenol, and was able to complete the show. But his opinion was that it was my piriformis.
Yep. Okay.
Pressing against my sciatic nerve, making me feel sensation of sciatica. And till this day, I'm still working around it. It's getting better. And day by day, I just actually did my first leg day the other day. And it's getting better. So I know it's not terribly serious, but it prevented me from flexing. So every time I tried to flex, I was shaking and I couldn't control it. It was the weirdest thing ever. You know, anytime I tried to engage it, it was painful. It was flexing, and then I progressively got moved down. And I saw it happening, and I was like, oh God, they're seeing what's going on, you know, but rightfully so, I couldn't present the package that I brought. So I think I could have done better had those things gone my way.
Yeah. Yeah. As is, I would have had you in the top 6. So can only imagine what it would have been like if you could have performed at your top level. You've been continuing physical therapy?
Yeah. Just doing light stretching. I'm a personal trainer by trade.
Okay.
So I know all the right things to do. And, with advice from a few friends of mine that do ART work, I'm doing all the right things around that to, have a good rehab and gain strength back in that leg. And I'm actually able to now flex it as of this week, whether or not it's 100%, not quite there yet, but, I think in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to train at full strength.
Good. I had herniated discs. Actually, I had a surgery on one of my lower discs years ago. What's that?
Did you get it fused?
No, it was just I had a part of the disc removed, a discectomy, it's called. But I didn't have anything fused. But scar tissue grew back, and I had horrible sciatic pain. I couldn't walk. Once I stood up, it was like a connection was being made between scar tissue and muscle and the nerve or something. If I sat down, I was cool. If I stood up to walk from like the living room to the bathroom, I was shaking in pain. Yeah. Horrible. And one of the things that got worked on by my physical therapist at the time was the piriformis muscle.
Yeah.
That was excruciating when they worked on. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like somebody. Yeah, it's like somebody stabbing you from the point of origin all the way down to wherever. Like, it could go up, it could go down.
Right. Mine went down all the way to my ankle, wrapped around my ankle. It was horrible.
Yeah. First time my ART person touched it, I swear to God, my world turned purple.
Yeah.
Like everything just went purple. I was like, what the hell just happened? But after she was done, it all felt better.
Yeah. That's the thing about it. It's excruciating when they're working on it, but afterwards it helps a whole lot. So it's good. I'm glad that you're feeling better and stuff. Do you have a plan for next year, or is it too early?
As of now, it's kind of up in the air. I really want that New York title, man. I love the New York Pro because that's my first. That's my baby. And it's almost like a redemption story, because that was the first show that I ever was put in third call outs. So, first time I did it, I got bumped from, I was third call outs and got bumped up to second call outs. And that was the first time that ever happened. So,
what year was that?
That was 2018.
Okay. Yeah. Who won that year?
Sean won.
Yes. Yeah, that was in New York still, right? Yes.
Yep,
so that was
Westchester.
Yeah, I was at that show.
Sean versus Zane. Yeah, Sean versus Zane. See, you might not have remembered me.
No, you honestly, you look very familiar to me this year. But I was like, that's where I saw you. So I did see you live before this year's Olympia. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I was lesser known back then. But yeah, that was Sean versus Zane, and that was a great show.
Great show. Yeah.
That was a huge show. I think there was like 29 competitors.
Humongous. Yeah. That was, man, New York Pro. I lived in the New York area until November of last year. So yeah, I've been here almost a year now. Wow, I can't believe that. I'm in Texas now, in Dallas area. But I always went to the New York Pro from 2012 through whatever year COVID happened. I didn't go to it because it wasn't in New York anymore. But hopefully it comes back there, because the energy in New York for bodybuilding shows is just awesome.
It's different, right?
It is.
So I used to hear stories of when it was Night of Champions, how it was held at the Beacon Theater, and how bodybuilding was just revered, and people were held on pedestals. Like, I'm not saying I want that part of it. I just want to be able to compete in actual, like, New York City. Like, I love the Westchester County Center, but I want it to be like in New York. Yeah,
I never went to the Beacon Theater for the show. By the time I went, it was in, I think, the Tribeca Arts Center in Manhattan. And that was a cool theater too. I mean, it wasn't as beautiful as the Beach,
Yeah.
but it was New York City. It was a theater set up. And that was really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would bring back a different energy to it. You know, I think bodybuilding needs that energy. After a year, like seeing the Olympia in Orlando and the size of that stage and the grandiose everything, like, you know, you got to do something cool like that. Like put it back.
It would be awesome if Big Steve can get it back into, if they're able to do anything in New York again.
Yeah. I know right now it's probably out of his hands. Yeah.
If he can bring it back in like grand fashion at a nice theater in New York City, it'd be freaking awesome. I would fly from Dallas to go to see that show. Yeah.
Hey, now you're talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with all the regulations they got in New York now, I mean, I don't think you could breathe in New York without a passport.
Yeah, you guys would have to have 3 masks on stage and you wouldn't be able to flex. Yeah.
Serious. The first bodybuilding show that you have to be fully covered.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Straight up.
But yeah, hopefully things get back to normal sooner than later, because living in Texas, that's one good thing, honestly. What's that?
You get your freedom.
Exactly. So I mean, I've gone to a lot of shows. There's good shows here in the Texas area too. And now Freddie Nadeau and Sheila Brown are doing the Texas Pro, which they did this year. It's going to grow even bigger next year. That's on my short list. That's on my short list. That had great energy. The audience this year was crazy. Like it got wild because it was really a close show between Ian and Steve Kuklo.
Okay. See, I'm still.
But it was awesome. And Guy Cisternino retired on stage. It was a cool show, but
no, that was on my short list of things to do this year, but you know, somehow or another I got talked out of it.
You were already qualified by then, right?
Yeah, JM Mannion was like, dude, you know, go for the money. And I was kind of like, yeah, you know, you do prove a point. You know, he's like, who cares about who doesn't get a qualification? He's like, go for the money. I was like,
I agree with this.
I was ready to do it, but you know, like after talking with Dave, he's like, you know, it could work in either way. It could work for you, it could work against you. Suppose you come in, you lose, it kind of decreases your stock a little bit. So, you know, we played it smart, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Ian went the other way, and he won, but then again, maybe he wasn't 100% for the Olympia after doing that many shows. Who knows? You can't really tell what's going to happen. So.
Yeah, and I look at what happened at the Olympia. Suppose that injury happened a few days before. You know, suppose everything got moved up.
Right. What if it happened at the Texas Pro, and then
exactly
things may not have been right for the Olympia. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look back and think about it. You were a champion already. Now you were on the Olympia stage. Don't second guess it. Yeah.
There you go. But for next year, Texas is one of the shows that I'm thinking about. So I obviously have to do Tampa.
Defend that title.
Got it, man. Like, why not? So do Tampa, do Texas. I don't know if the dates are going to be the same. I think they might move them around. Just because now the Olympia is in December, you know.
Yeah, they can spread things out more now. So.
Yeah, so that'll give me a lot of time to heal in between. So, you know, I like I said, I would love to do New York. Got to do Tampa. Love to do Texas.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do an international show next year.
Really?
Just to say I did it, you know.
Maybe post-Olympia. I don't know.
Pre-Olympia wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, one of the earlier, I don't know, maybe Spain shows or something. You know, I always want to go to Prague. That would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. I
was talking to the guys for the Japanese Pro or Japan Pro. And if COVID had lifted, I was actually going to do that show. But, you know, now they're not letting anyone without a Japanese passport enter the country, so on and so forth. So that was a wash.
Yeah, the world's changed so much, man. COVID's messed things up.
The
It's
worst.
not fair to bodybuilding, but it's not fair for a lot of things. But now,
Not
it
fair
really
for me to go to the grocery store.
exactly. Wow. Yeah, New York Pro is typically earlier in the season, so maybe it'd be better to wait a little longer, depending on how you heal up and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I totally feel this will be gone a couple of weeks. You know, it's probably just being so depleted in the process. You know,
Right.
at that point, you're so susceptible, anything could happen. You know, you could blink and have a hernia.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Weird things happen. Um, is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't touched on?
Well, well, how do you feel about the controversy going on right now with the Open? You know, I like to poke the minds of bodybuilding and figure out what their thoughts are. So how do you feel
What
about Rami winning over Hadi? Now they're saying, you know, Hadi shoulders, Rami's quads. Does that make Brandon Mr. Olympia? Like, it's spilled milk, but
so
it's
to me, okay, so I was sitting next to a prominent bodybuilding coach and analyst at the Olympia.
good.
I won't say his name just because I don't
Protect
know.
the,
What's that?
protect the innocent.
Yeah, yes. But we were talking, and I was so glad that I had someone like him to sit next to at finals for both nights. And we were just talking about how, like, you know, even as far back, everyone talks about the 90s being like this era that was like super special, and it was.
Yeah.
But if you go to Phil Heath's era, or a little before that, when say 2009, when Jay won that title back,
Yep.
to say 2018 when Phil lost the title to Sean, those years, the quality of bodybuilders on the open stage was just a totally different level. That almost anyone, if you take someone from the top 5 of any of those shows, could have walked on the stage and just been like, "That's the winner." So the quality, because the quality is what it is right now, and I'm not trying to sound like the soul guy who's like, "It's better back in my day," because this is still my day as far as I'm concerned as a fan. I'm not going anywhere, and I would love for it to continue to be amazing. It just has not been for the last 3 years, that same quality. So that if we're like, so we're having to look at guys and go, well, I think it's kind of funny that they're talking about Hadi's shoulders now, because Hadi's shoulders, Rami's quads, they've been this way since they were, I don't know, since I've ever seen them. So now that we're having to nitpick that, it's because there's no one that's on that stage that's like a Phil Heath or Jay Cutler that's like, bam, that's the champion.
Oh yeah.
And there's no one that, like, the top 5 is just, it's just not what it used to be. And so I don't know what my point is, other than that we're talking about like the amount of oil in someone's shoulders compared to somebody else's. And is that the person who didn't have obvious oil, should he then be Mr. Olympia? It should be, I don't know, shouldn't come down to something like that.
Right. So I'll say this. I saw Rami backstage and I was like, okay, Rami's going to be Mr. Olympia guy.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that's not a slight to anybody. He just looked ready. And, you know, it is what you present on stage. He looked ready. So that said, you know,
he presented in a way, yes, he presented as the champion. And
yeah, he was there to defend something that was his. And that's who I had winning the show. You know, no slight to anybody else. Everybody looked good. But like you said, Phil, like I gotta slow you down, because Phil was so good that it's unfair to compare people to him.
right.
And you go back in pictures now and you really appreciate what Phil did. And dude, like, it's like I tell people all the time, you know, this is not a slight to Sean, but Phil could have won that show.
Oh yeah, I had him winning.
I had Phil winning that show.
Me too.
You know, I love Sean Roden's physique, but I said Phil was going to win that show. Like, you know, I thought he did enough.
I did too.
So That's not a slight to anybody. All due respect to everyone.
Phil is someone who,
It's special what he's got.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of his, and everyone knows I've been like from the time he won on, but before he won, I did not want him to win 2011 because I was a humongous Jay Cutler fan. I was a huge Jay fan. Yeah. But he won 2011, and it was clear he won 2011. It was really kind of close in 2010 too. But from the time he won till the time he lost it, there was, to me, I didn't know the man. He wasn't my best friend. I just didn't think it was. I thought there was no question. As soon as he came on stage, he won the show. In 2015, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's flat." And at prejudging, as soon as he came out on prejudging, I was like, I've seen them all. I've seen all the other guys. He came out last, and boom, as soon as he hit the stage, I was like, that's the winner. And that's how he was. But to the credit of all the guys he was competing against, those top fives and top sixes were all sensational too.
Oh, absolutely. You talk about the Dennis Wolfs.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And when we talk about Phil, like structurally, aesthetically, symmetrically, like, those arguments, like, honestly, like what he has is just different. It's just different. And, I struggle to see it in today's bodybuilding as well. These guys that we see now, myself included, because I am a bodybuilder, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something in the water, but I don't think that I love what we're doing. But the look that we're presenting now is just a little bit different than what they do. So I think that you got to separate the two. It's hard to really compare the two eras. So I think that what we're doing now is just a little bit different than what they did.
Maybe, but I would say that I think the 212 guys and the classic guys, I know they're doing something very different, but sitting there at the Olympia watching, you guys were all conditioned and striated glutes and everything. And then you didn't see that with the open guys. I'm like, why does this have to be? You don't have to come in at 265 pounds if 255 pounds will make you look like Phil Heath, or that level of conditioning. So I don't know. I just feel like.
So that makes me want to ask you, do you think that there should be a weight for the open?
Well, I honestly, so I was going to be doing this whole, I don't know. I was going to be doing this whole series on Instagram about a fantasy. If I had a fantasy federation, if someone was to come up, a billionaire was to say, hey, Michael, we want to do a competitor for the IFBB Pro League. We'll let you be the guy who constructs it. We have billions of dollars and we can bring in contracts or whatever. I would construct it very differently. I would make it sort of like classic physique in terms of height and weight limits. Okay. But the weight limits probably being like 20 pounds greater than what is there for classic. 50, like 10, 15, 20 pounds, depending on the height. So that's the other thing. When every time the IFBB Pro League was changing the weight limits of the division, they were like 5 pounds more to everyone. Well, 5 pounds more to a guy 6'1" is not the same as 5 pounds more to a guy who's 5'7". The muscle gets spread, so you have to kind of up that as you go. I would say if you give 5 pounds to the guy who's 5'7", give 15 pounds to the guy who's 6'1", right, in terms of muscle.
So how does that work now for 212 if you're talking about height and weight? Because it's just pretty much shorter. So but it was interesting this year with and I'm just BSing about that stuff. That would be kind of interesting to see. But in 212 you had Nathan Neppler, who's he's a taller guy.
5'8". I think he's like 5'8". Yeah. 212 pounds next to guys. How tall are you?
I'm about 5'5" on a good day when I stretch.
Yeah. Right.
And the wind blows the right way.
So he had that weight stretched out. He looked great. He placed 5th, I think. Yeah.
So
it would change the aesthetics.
He's very much like Zane Watson.
Very.
You remember? Good. Yeah. So Zane was on the taller side, and everybody's saying he should go to the open. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he do the open at one point?
I think he did some open shows. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. But Nathan, I think he does still fit in the 212. But he's pretty close to maxing out if he didn't max out already.
Yeah, I spoke to him at the Meet the Olympians on that Thursday night, and I think he weighed in at like 212 or 211.8 or something. I don't know what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to him, so he was real close, but where does he go from here? That's a great question.
Right. Yes. Because someone like well, I don't know. I mean, like, if he brings the quality of 10 pounds more muscle, could he do well? I personally think, see, I'm going to talk about George Peterson a little bit now.
Yeah. Oh.
George Peterson was about, he could compete in the 212s, close to that level. 212.
How tall was George?
George 5'7.5", just under 5'8".
All right.
But he had bones that were like tiny bones. So his waist was like this, and then he had big muscle bellies, and so he was light.
He had broad shoulders. Because I saw him in Pittsburgh, and I've never seen George before. I never had the luxury of meeting George. But when I saw who they said was George Peterson, I was like, I have to compete against that guy. Like, are you kidding me? And it was just like, it was like a huge Dorito chip. You know what I mean? Like,
the V's.
Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, this guy's going to win Mr. Olympia.
That's crazy. I mean, he always had that small waist and everything. He just seemed like, for a bodybuilder, and it's going to say like a picture of health. Like, I was the most shocked person to hear that he's who passed. I couldn't believe it. But at any rate, I think that he had a type of physique that at 225 could win open shows.
Absolutely. Dude,
I think there's guys who can do that.
Yeah, now his back was like, Kai Green-esque.
Yes.
If you meant, you know what I mean? Like, he had that kind of detail that very few people are able to achieve.
Yeah.
Posterior chain, just forget about it. You're not beating that shot. I don't care how good you are, how much mass you bring. The quality that is on that man's frame is just not going to be beaten. Right. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, like what I expected to see from him, like, I'm so saddened that I didn't get to. Because I was really looking forward. Out of all the competitors, I wanted to meet him. He works with New England Muscle there. And
yes.
Yeah. So I got to know forget the young man's name. Ricky. Yeah, so I got to know Ricky just through social media. But just seeing how he handled George and their relationship through social media, you could tell that George was just a good dude. And he only wanted what was good for bodybuilding, and just like a genuine person.
Yeah, very, very much. And I have to say, I mean, it's a shame. He would have been a great. I think he would have won the show, and I think
I agree.
No greater. I don't know anyone that could represent the sport better than he. That said, you are a very well-spoken, very intelligent, very cool dude, and I think that you not being sponsored is a problem, and hopefully that gets changed by next season.
Well, the game isn't the same. We all know that. But in closing, I don't know if this is where you were wrapping it up, but I just had to kind of get this off my chest. After going to the Olympia this year and having this experience, I got to say that I feel as if it's totally within my realm to say I could be a contender for the title next year. I really believe that I'm going to shock a lot of people if I haven't already. But my name will be in that conversation next year.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe that 100%. That you finished top ate while experiencing sciatic pain and thinking you tore your quad, your glute stepping on stage, that you finished 8th in that show speaks highly of you as a competitor. And I, watching the show, never thought anything was wrong with you. I know you say you were shaking and stuff, but I didn't notice it. I don't know. Maybe
I can send you the video of when I'm almost certain you could actually see the leg just lock up and me not able to do anything with it. Like all flexing just stops and then it starts shaking. You know, and I was like,
what pose was it?
Steve had us do front double bicep a couple of times. And I believe it was the second time he asked us to do it. I tried to hit it and then you just watch the leg release.
If it was during comparisons, I could have missed it, especially if it was the second time around. My eyes may have been like on somebody else, different body part when that was happening. But no, I mean, I thought you could have been 6th place this year. I think another year from now, you could definitely be in contention for that title. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the 212. I mean, thus far, it's been, let's see, it's been pretty much a 3-man. Who was? Oh, Derek. Yeah, Derek won. So it's been pretty much the same names, with George Peterson now out of the picture, though, unfortunately for him and for the world. It's been those guys for the past few years, post Flex Lewis. But yeah, there's definitely room for you to jump in there, man.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of guys coming up too. I mean, don't forget about what do you call it there? Keon.
Yeah, well, Keon's got to bring it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, then you got Detrick Lewis, Bo
Lewis, yes.
Yeah. He's always a problem, but you know, I mean, I know all of us are hungry. Like I see a hunger in the 212 that I just don't see in the open.
Right.
You know?
So that's why, like, part of me doesn't want to see it disbanded because it's so competitive and it's quality muscle. Like, you bring quality muscle density, hardness to the stage that you're not seeing that in the open class, but maybe injecting you guys into the open class would make those guys raise their level of hardness and conditioning. I don't know. Who knows?
There's an argument to be made there.
Yeah.
You know? I absolutely agree. When you put it like that, yeah, you know what? Every now and again, somebody deserves a swift kick in the ass. Yeah. Right?
So, exactly. Yeah. And this is what Phil did. Phil being there made everyone know, I got to come and shred it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I thought in 2019, when he was definitely not going to be there, everyone's going to bring their A game because they're going to think, that spot is open. Yep. And no, they didn't. Last year in 2020, when he came back, I think people upped their game a little bit. Then this year again, it just went down. I don't know. So maybe you guys need to go in there and stir it up a little bit for Men's Open.
Well, we probably should do that. We probably should get Phil back too.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Now, I would like to see that, and you know, I would love to see a Phil Kai match again. I know it's a pipe dream, and everybody wants to see it. But
I think those guys should book a tour where it's just the two of them.
Weren't they going to do that?
I don't know. It's something I think was kicked around, but I would pay to see that. See them pose down, do comparisons, but also talk, speak. Yeah. And they're both great speakers. Phil, you understand what he's saying, but yeah, no, they're both great individuals with a lot of charisma. I think it would be cool if they did a 2-man show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I mean, shit, they're doing it with music now, like Legends tours. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Why not? They have it at the casinos. They sell out arenas. Yeah, you're right. That'd be really cool. Kerrith, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Michael, thank you for having me, brother. Oh, awesome. Anytime. Next season, when things are coming up, we'll definitely do another one, hopefully. This year will be something. I'm going to put myself in history this year, in a good way. Awesome. So, yeah, I'll say that. And I believe shock a lot of people this year, Michael. I do believe it. All right, man. Thank you for having me on. My pleasure. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. This is Michael Bryson, Kerrith Bajjo. I said it right? You did say it right.
Awesome. Perfect. And this is bodybuilding. Take care.